The heat hadn't let up all day. Even as the sun dipped low over the highway, the air inside the truck cab felt heavy, pressing against her skin. Sweat clung to Marlena Cross's back, soaking into the fabric of her shirt as she guided the truck into the rest stop. It had been another long summer drive, miles of asphalt, vibration, and silence broken only by the engine's hum. Marlena parked, cut the engine, and sat still for a moment, letting her shoulders drop. When she finally stepped down from the cab, a sharp wave of pain shot through her back, sudden and unfamiliar. She reached behind instinctively, her fingers brushing the sore spot as her vision blurred. The ground seemed to tilt. Before anyone nearby could react, Marlena's knees gave out. She collapsed onto the pavement, her body going still in the heat, the reason for her pain still unseen and dangerously misunderstood. If you've ever ignored a signal from your body and told yourself it was just routine pain, fatigue, or stress, this story is for you. Because most of us are trained to push through discomfort without questioning it. What doctors later noticed in this case wasn't just ordinary pain, and understanding why matters more than you might think. As this story unfolds, you'll see how a small, easily dismissed symptom slowly revealed something far more serious. And by the end, you may find yourself looking at your own body's warning signs very differently. This isn't just a story about what happened, it's about knowing when your body is trying to tell you something important. For most people, summer meant shorter workdays and air-conditioned rooms. For Marlena Cross, it meant the opposite. She had been driving long-haul routes across the country for nearly 8 years alone, focused and dependable. The road was where she felt in control. Tight schedules, endless highways, and hours spent sitting behind the wheel had become normal parts of her life. Pain was normal too. Sore shoulders, a stiff lower back. The kind of discomfort you stop noticing once you've learned to push through it. Marlena wasn't the type to complain. She rarely took days off and never stopped unless something truly felt wrong. Bills had to be paid. Deliveries had deadlines. And she took pride in being someone companies could rely on, no matter the season. That summer had been brutal. Heat waves rolled across the states, turning truck cabs into ovens. Sweat, friction, and exhaustion followed her mile after mile. Still, she kept going, adjusting her seat, stretching when she could, telling herself the aches were just part of the job. What she didn't realize was that one small, easily dismissed irritation had already begun to change everything. It started as nothing more than an itch. Somewhere in the middle of a long afternoon drive, Marlena Cross felt a faint irritation on her upper back, right where the seat pressed most firmly against her. At first, she shifted her shoulders, assuming sweat had soaked through her shirt again. Summer drives were always like that, heat trapped inside the cab, fabric rubbing against skin for hours at a time. When the itching didn't fade, she reached back briefly, scratching through her shirt without giving it much thought. It brought a moment of relief, just enough for her to refocus on the road ahead. There was no sharp pain, no visible sign she could see in the mirror, nothing that felt worth stopping for. By the end of the day, the spot felt slightly tender, almost like a small bruise. Marlena shrugged it off. Long hours of sitting did that. Muscles tightened, skin got irritated. It was all part of the routine she'd lived with for years. She adjusted her seat, rolled her shoulders once, and kept driving, unaware that the simple act of scratching had disturbed something beneath the surface that wouldn't stay quiet for long. By the next morning, the discomfort hadn't disappeared, but it still didn't feel serious. Marlena Cross noticed the soreness as she climbed back into the driver's seat, the pressure against her back sending a dull ache through the same spot. She winced briefly, then adjusted her posture. Long-haul driving had a way of doing that. Hours of vibration, limited movement, muscles stiffening in places you didn't expect. She told herself it was nothing more than back strain. Truck drivers lived with pain. Everyone she knew had a story about sore shoulders, aching spines, or seats that never quite fit right. Marlena had learned to listen to her body, but only enough to keep moving. And this felt familiar. Annoying, yes. Dangerous? Not even close. Throughout the day, the spot throbbed under the constant pressure of the seat. Each bump in the road sent a small reminder through her back, but she pushed it aside. She stretched at fuel stops. rolled her shoulders, drank more water. Everything she usually did when her body protested. What convinced her most was the absence of obvious warning signs. No fever, no visible injury, no sharp pain demanding attention. Just a deep, persistent soreness that made sense at least in her mind. So Marlena kept driving, unaware that the real problem had nothing to do with muscle strain, and everything to do with what she couldn't see. Over the next few days, the discomfort stopped behaving the way muscle pain usually did. What had once felt like a dull ache began to concentrate into a single, stubborn point on Marlena Cross's back. Sitting for long periods became harder. The pressure from the seat no longer caused soreness, it caused a sharp, pulsing sensation that came and went without warning. At night, she noticed it more. Lying flat in the sleeper cab, the spot felt swollen, tender to the touch. When she reached back, her fingers brushed over a small raised area beneath the skin. It wasn't large. It wasn't visible. But it was sensitive in a way that made her pull her hand away. Still, she dismissed it. Skin irritation happened in summer. Sweat clogged pores. Friction made things inflamed. She told herself it would settle down once the weather cooled, or her schedule eased. Stopping for something that small felt unnecessary, almost dramatic. What Marlena didn't realize was that the irritation wasn't calming down at all. Beneath the surface, the area was becoming increasingly inflamed, trapped under constant heat and pressure, with no chance to recover. Each mile she drove made it worse. And while the pain stayed mostly hidden, her body had already started reacting in ways she didn't yet understand. Quiet warnings building toward something far more serious. By the end of that week, the pain was no longer the only thing Marlena noticed. Driving became harder in ways she couldn't explain. She felt unusually tired, even after sleeping. Simple movements twisting to check her mirrors, climbing in and out of the cab left her slightly dizzy. At first, she blamed the heat. Summer exhaustion was common on the road, and she'd powered through worse before. But something felt off. The spot on her back had grown more sensitive, reacting sharply whenever the seat pressed against it. Even minor road vibrations sent a jolt through her body. She began adjusting her posture constantly, unable to find a position that didn't aggravate it. The pain no longer faded. When she stood up, it lingered. During a fuel stop, Marlena caught herself breathing a little heavier than usual. Her head felt light. She leaned against the truck for a moment, waiting for the sensation to pass. It did, but slowly. She didn't connect the dots. To her, these were separate problems: heat, fatigue, back pain. None of them seemed urgent on their own. But together, they were signs her body was struggling with something deeper, something spreading quietly beneath the surface. As she pulled back onto the highway, Marlena had no idea that her body was already under stress and that it was running out of ways to compensate. When Marlena Cross finally reached her destination that afternoon, the relief she expected never came. She eased the truck into position, set the brake, and sat there for a moment longer than usual. Her back ached deeply now, not sharp, not sudden, just heavy, like something pulling her down from the inside. The air felt thick as she reached for the door handle. As her boots touched the ground, a wave of weakness washed over her. This time, it wasn't just pain. Her heart raced, her breath shortened, and the world around her seemed to lose focus. She tried to steady herself, telling her body to slow down, to cooperate the way it always had before. But it didn't listen. The spot on her back burned under the pressure of movement, sending a signal through her chest that made her knees buckle. Marlena barely had time to register the sensation before the ground rushed up to meet her. She collapsed again, harder this time. Lying there, half aware, she felt heat radiating through her back, spreading outward. Voices echoed somewhere nearby, distant and distorted. She wanted to explain what was wrong, to say it was probably just exhaustion, but the truth was, she didn't understand what was happening anymore. And neither did anyone else yet. By the time Marlena fully opened her eyes, she was no longer on the pavement. The sharp smell of antiseptic filled the air as voices moved around her with calm urgency. Someone was asking her name. Another voice told her to stay still. Bright lights passed overhead as she was guided through automatic doors and into the controlled quiet of an emergency room. Marlena Cross tried to focus, but her body felt heavy, uncooperative. Her back throbbed with a deep, spreading pain that no longer felt isolated to one spot. A nurse gently helped her shift onto her side, careful not to press against the area causing trouble. "Have you been feeling unwell?" someone asked. Marlena hesitated. The question felt bigger than it should have. She mentioned the heat, the long drives, the back pain she'd assumed was strain. As she spoke, the medical staff exchanged brief, thoughtful glances, not alarmed, but attentive. Her vital signs were checked. Fluids were started. The room remained calm, but focused. A doctor entered, introducing himself before asking when the pain had started and whether she'd noticed any skin changes. When Marlena admitted she hadn't really looked, his expression shifted not to panic, but to concern. "We're going to take a closer look," he said evenly, "and we'll run a few tests." It was the first moment Marlena realized this wasn't just about exhaustion anymore. Something had gone wrong beneath the surface, and the doctors were beginning to see it clearly. Once Marlena was stable, the doctor returned, this time with a nurse and a focused calm that signaled something important had been noticed. They helped Marlena Cross shift carefully onto her side, keeping movements slow and controlled. When the doctor examined her back, he didn't rush. He studied the area quietly, pressing gently around the spot she'd described. Marlena flinched at the tenderness, surprised by how intense it felt from such light contact. "There's a localized swelling here," he said, more to the nurse than to her, "and the skin's warmer than it should be." Marlena tried to twist her head to see, but the angle made it impossible. She felt a sudden knot of unease. No one had ever examined her back like this before. The doctor asked if she'd had any recent injuries, insect bites, or skin irritation. When Marlena mentioned the itching and the scratching, his expression tightened, not dramatically, but thoughtfully. "That matters," he said. He explained that sometimes what appears to be a small surface issue can hide something more serious underneath, especially when heat, friction, and pressure are involved. The area, he noted, was reacting more aggressively than a simple muscle strain ever would. "We're going to order imaging and blood work," he added, "just to understand what's happening beneath the skin." Marlena nodded, a quiet tension settling in her chest. For the first time since the pain began, she understood that the problem wasn't her back muscles at all. It was something deeper, something her body had been fighting silently for days. When the test results came back, the doctor returned with clearer answers and a serious tone. He explained that Marlena wasn't dealing with a muscle injury at all. Beneath the skin on her back, a deep infected cyst had formed. It likely began as a clogged pore or small irritation, something easy to ignore, especially in hot conditions where sweat and friction were constant. Over time, pressure from sitting for long hours and repeated irritation had caused inflammation to build. Because the cyst was deep, it didn't appear dramatic on the surface. Instead, it expanded inward, trapping infection and triggering her body's immune response. "The pain you felt wasn't from your spine," the doctor said. "It was your body reacting to an infection that had nowhere to release pressure." Marlena listened quietly, realizing how easily she'd misread the signals. The itching, the soreness, the fatigue. None of it felt urgent on its own, but together, they painted a very different picture. The doctor stressed that these cases often go unnoticed because they don't look dangerous at first. But internally, the body treats them seriously, especially when heat and constant pressure prevent healing. The most unsettling part wasn't what the cyst was. It was what could have happened next. The doctor explained that untreated infections like Marlena's can spread beyond their original location. As the inflammation worsens, bacteria can enter the bloodstream, triggering systemic reactions that affect blood pressure, heart rate, and consciousness. That explained the dizziness, the collapse, the sudden weakness. "In your case," he said gently, "your body was starting to struggle to keep things contained. The heat, dehydration, and physical stress of long-haul driving had made it harder for her system to compensate. Her collapse wasn't random, It was a warning sign that her body was reaching its limit. Marlena felt a chill despite the warm room. She'd been hours away from dismissing it again, from climbing back into the cab and continuing her route. The doctor didn't dramatize it, but his message was clear. Waiting any longer could have led to far more serious complications. Ignoring something small had nearly turned into something life-threatening. The medical team moved quickly, but calmly. Marlena was admitted for treatment focused on controlling the infection and relieving the inflammation. She was given medication to support her body's response while doctors monitored her closely for changes. What stood out to her wasn't fear, it was relief. Within hours, the constant pressure in her back began to ease. The sharp pulsing sensation softened, replaced by a manageable soreness. For the first time in days, her breathing felt steady again. The doctor checked on her regularly, explaining that early intervention made a significant difference. Her collapse, while frightening, had likely prevented things from progressing further. Marlena rested, finally allowing her body to stop fighting on its own. Recovery wasn't instant, but it was noticeable. Over the next couple of days, Marlena's strength slowly returned. The dizziness faded. Her appetite came back. She could sit up without wincing, stand without feeling lightheaded. More than anything, her mind cleared. She replayed the early signs, the itching, the soreness, the excuses she'd made. It was unsettling how easy it had been to explain everything away. The doctors assured her she'd heal fully with proper care and rest. But they also reminded her that her body had spoken clearly, she just hadn't recognized the language at the time. Before discharge, the doctor sat with her one last time. He explained that skin-related issues aren't always superficial. When pain behaves unusually, worsens quickly, or comes with fatigue or dizziness, it deserves attention, especially for people in physically demanding jobs. Your body doesn't create symptoms without a reason, he said. It's not about fear, it's about awareness. Marlena nodded, understanding now what she hadn't before. Marlena returned to the road weeks later, stronger, wiser, and far more attentive to her body. What started as a painful spot she barely noticed had nearly cost her far more than a missed delivery. Her story is a reminder that not every serious problem announces itself loudly. Some begin quietly, hidden beneath routine discomfort and easy assumptions. Listening early doesn't mean overreacting. Sometimes, it means giving your body the chance to protect you before it's forced to do something drastic just to be heard.